This is a Tab Media special report chatting with Rolland Slade, the outgoing Executive Committee chairperson, just hours before he is wrapping up. We are in Anaheim at the SBC Annual Meeting, and he is about to go into the last session. When it wraps up, he'll have basically a few hours tomorrow mornings when the new chair takes over. So Rolland's taken a few minutes to just share with us some reflections and thought processes as he's about to hand that gavel over. Rolland, thank you for your time.
Well, thank you, Jennifer. It's been a pleasure to work with you, chat with you over these last couple of years.
Absolutely, absolutely. You've always been so kind to answer my questions and help me understand what's happening. So much has happened in your time, not only as chair, but on the executive committee. And so just to set that up, you've been on the executive committee for 2 full terms.
Right. Or yes, 2 full terms, yes.
So that would be 8 years total.
Right.
Okay, and then you are now finishing your second 1-year term as chairperson, right?
Yes.
Okay, now, we were talking earlier that Rolland was also the first African American to serve as a chair of the executive committee.
Yes.
That in itself was historic.
Yes.
You also rolled on into that position right before the pandemic.
Yes.
So you were serving during all the things with the pandemic. And then you've also led the executive committee through all these last couple of months, several months, really a year now, I guess, with all that's happening with the sexual abuse investigation. Have you actually had time to realize all the different pieces and parts that have happened in these 2 years?
I really haven't. I haven't had a chance to really just kind of think back.
Right.
I've tried to recently, this last month, I tried to kind of take a little bit of time to write in a journal, some thoughts about, what was it like? What was it like the first couple of years when I came on the executive committee in 2014, as just a member?
Right.
What was it like? And then to go from being a member to being, the chairman. I spent 2 years as the chairman of the cooperative program committee.
Okay.
Which moved me into being an officer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved from there. I spent 2 years as the vice chair.
Okay.
And then now 2 years as the chairman. So I've spent 6 of my 8 years on the executive committee as an officer of the executive committee.
Is that a good progress as far as moving into the top role to be able to learn more? Would you suggest that as a pattern, a stepping stone?
Absolutely. I would definitely recommend if that's the
David
that's
Sons,
where you're
right?
going to go. But Jennifer, I didn't come in thinking that I would do that.
Right.
To me, as some people know, I'm a baseball guy. I like baseball. So, I went from rookie ball to A-League to AA to AAA, and now, definitely in the majors.
Right.
And get to be chair.
So what is it that you know right now that you had no clue about when you stepped foot onto this position or onto the committee and then started working?
I didn't know that the chair had additional responsibilities besides being ex officio of the subcommittees within the EC.
Okay.
I have responsibility of now since 2019. The chair is also a member of the credentials committee. I didn't realize that I was this, had to be a signer on the bank account or had to be the signer that approved the president and CEO's travel expenses on a monthly basis.
Wow.
Didn't realize that I would be in communications with the EC and subsequently the SBC's attorneys on a regular basis, that I would know about lawsuits that were going on within, where the SBC was brought into. Right. So that, you don't see that from the platform. Right. You don't see that even from our plenary sessions. Right. And then the planning that goes into the plenary session, the background material that we get. Yeah. I didn't know all of that.
That had to be involved.
Yeah.
You mentioned credentials committee. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Okay.
All right. So The Credentials Committee is somewhat new at the level that it exists now.
Yes.
Help me with my timing. 2019?
2019 in Birmingham.
Okay. And so it's finding its way. There's lots of parts and pieces of that story. But tell me a little bit about the Credentials Committee and what you're seeing play out with it right now.
Well, the Credentials Committee now is, we're looking at several areas, sex abuse, racial discrimination, and then ultimately being in friendly cooperation with Southern Baptist Convention.
Okay.
Holding to the tenets of our faith. How do we esteem, or how does a church really not esteem, but how does the church apply and follow Baptist faith and message? Are they doing something out of order?
Right.
So that faith and practice part. Unfortunately, it's a group of 7 people who are volunteers who, when you go to your first meeting, you get access to the portal and you begin to read the submissions, and submissions will be multiple pages because someone announcing, or kind of not announcing, putting in what the issue is, and then they tell their story, and you've got to read all of that so that you can intelligently speak in your meetings. And that's one of the, if there's a blessing with Zoom, it's that now we don't have to physically go to some place. We can actually go on a Zoom call, and we've been doing that on a monthly basis. And those calls last anywhere from 2 to 5 hours. So, you're being on a Zoom call.
Wow.
I don't know how many times I promised that our Zoom call would be 90 minutes, and I've yet to do that. But you go on there and you talk about it, and it's really, you don't have the person that's filed or given a submission in the room, or get to hear from them. You're reading what they put.
Is it normally from an individual?
It's normally from an individual,
Okay.
yeah. And then, but you have to weigh the information that you receive. Sometimes it's an individual in one state talking about something that a church is doing, 5 states away. And you're kind of like, well, there's got to be a connection. What's the connection? And you can't see the connection on the paper, or you can't see it, in the information that you've been given. So it's kind of like, what's the backstory to get us here?
Yeah.
And you have to, the impact. You weigh the impact when we make that recommendation. If you're going to make a recommendation to remove fellowship from a church, you're telling that church they no longer can be a part of the Southern Baptist Convention, and that's not it's not an easy thing to do.
The pressure, I think.
And it's a recommendation that's made to the executive committee, and then the executive committee then will take that action. And for some people, if it's a faith and practice issue, for some people it's cut and dry. They submit it, and they believe that we should remove fellowship, but they haven't really asked the church and gone further into it. And so then we go further and inquire and kind of do some steps. And I know I'm kind of speaking vague because it's a confidential process.
I know.
And I don't want to mess that up. So.
And you sit on the Credentials Committee by way of being the chair as an ex officio member, or
ex
is
officio
that right?
voting member.
Okay, voting member. Okay.
So you participate and.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, does it sometimes work where once a church knows they're being reviewed, that they might just go ahead and pull out themselves and make it easy on everybody else? Does that happen?
That happens. that happens, and in some cases, I think for me as a Credentials Committee member, kind of like, I hope they get it and they understand where we're coming from.
Right.
We're not trying to put this out in the general public.
Right.
And then the church comes back and says, some churches get upset that they obviously believe that they're part of Southern Baptist, so they believe in the autonomy of the local church. And like, well, who are you all? We don't care what you're called. Who are you asking us what we're doing and why we're doing what we're doing? We've been asked to do that. That's our task as a Credentials Committee.
This convention, however, has proven that's going to be a little more complex than maybe it was first thought. Talk to me a little bit about some of the conversations that we've been having here in Anaheim, and how do we, what's the checklist? What does it mean to be in fellowship?
And that's really the question.
Yeah.
That's, we are a Baptist network, a Baptist convention. So we believe in the autonomy of the local church. That's part of the Baptist faith and message. So because of that, you have to understand that not every church is going to do it exactly the same way. Or, they're not going to hit all, if there's 5 things on the checklist, is friendly cooperation the majority of items on the checklist? Some will say, well, it's 3. Well, what about those who say, well, if it's less than 5, then they're not in friendly.
All or nothing.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, how do we decide this?
Yeah.
And so, one of the things that we were trying to ask the messengers is give us some direction.
Right.
We're trying to write this and figure out how to do this, but can you help us, give us some guidelines?
Right.
Is really what we needed. And again, I'm thankful for especially for Dr. Moeller. I'll just say that I'm thankful for Dr. Moeller calling to our attention that we can't argue every word, or we can't seek definition of every single word, because we would do that. We would be doing that for decades. Right. So we take the Baptist faith and message as it is, and as we understand it, as reasonable people in the room. Right. We take God's word as we understand it. Again, sharing back and forth, and then we look at we ought to look at the submissions. So I think the process will change. Right. That the credentials committee's using, but Stacy Bramlett, Mike Lawson, and now Linda Cooper, all 3 of them have done tremendous work as the chair of the credentials committee. And one of the sad things about it, and we don't talk about it, and I don't want to say a lot about it, but we get the credentials committee gets nasty grams. Like, why don't you guys do this? Right. You ought to do this. It's simple. Yeah. Well, it's simple. It may be simple to the submitter. Right. But there's a ripple effect. Okay. A decision we make at the credentials committee will affect a state convention, will affect an association.
Good point.
They don't have to do what we've done. Right. So we can say they're out, but the state convention says, no, we're fine with them. Or a local association says they're fine. I think in an ideal world, it would be the association would first look at it. Right. Then the state convention would look at it, and then the credentials committee would look at it to make that recommendation to the executive committee. And maybe if all things were working, that would naturally happen. But what happens is, I'm guessing somebody just comes straight to the credentials committee. Well, because the submission is in the portal for submission is housed with the executive committee. Right. So that's where it lands. Right. Okay. That's where it lands first. Okay. Well, any words of comfort for people who are a little unsure right now about the credentials committee? Is it a moment of being patient to let it work itself out, or is it a moment of you feel confident in just the process as it is? I think I would ask people to be patient as the credentials committee works it out. Okay. We have a different interim legal team. Right. They're part of that conversation because it's important. There are details of how does the credentials committee communicate to a local church. Okay. Because we don't communicate as having control. Right. We want to ask them, questions. Right. And we're not asking them like they're wrong. We just need to know this because we do have a decision that we've been tasked to make. But we're saying we don't have all of the information. Can you shed some light on this? And so you have to be careful. We have to be careful of how we speak. Or in my time there, we had to be careful how we spoke to churches. Because you're back to the
autonomy situation,
Autonomy,
right?
local term,
And that balance is so delicate of having the opportunity to stay in that with that polity,
right.
but also make sure there is some kind of cooperating
Right.
element there. Okay, I have so many more questions, but I know we need to move on. Let's jump into the big story, really, which is the Sexual Abuse Task Force, and the report and the investigation, and then all the ripple pieces of all of that. I've heard many members of the executive committee through this time span that's been focused on say the phrase, "This happened on my watch." What does that mean to you?
Well, I've been on the committee since 2014, so
Okay.
there were reports
Right.
or communications to staff that shed light on sexual abuse situations.
Mm-hmm.
It's obviously, the Google, the database, the unofficial
Mm-hmm.
record or list, I guess is the term, the list that's been kept over time. We didn't know the list existed.
Right.
I didn't know, but I also didn't ask
Okay.
because I didn't think that it existed. I understood in my orientation as a new trustee, we go over bylaw 18 and what our responsibilities are.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the role of the trustee, or what happens to trustee really, we work together 7 days out of the year.
Mm-hmm.
3 days in February,
Good
3
point.
days in September,
Good
and
point.
1 day in June.
Mm-hmm.
We come to the meeting, we have our meeting, the day before the annual meeting starts.
Right.
So those are our
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
We get information during the course of the
Right.
the year, where we're reading in preparation for February's meeting or preparation for September's meeting.
Right.
But we didn't, in terms of the day-to-day operation of the executive committee, that's what we have. We have staff.
Mm-hmm.
We have staff that we trust
Right.
to carry that out. And that's why we have a president and chief executive officer who oversees the staff, because we have that fiduciary responsibility, for the Southern Baptist Convention.
Right.
And Jennifer, if I can say anything that I have absolutely learned that's ingrained now in my brain, is that the executive committee holds the Southern Baptist Convention in trust.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So in me, and kind of since I'm a visual learner, I think of, this being, my hands together, cupped together. This is the Southern Baptist Convention in my hands right now.
Wow. Okay.
While we're meeting here. And when we're not here, this has to be, what's in my hand has to be placed here. And it's placed with this group of people, with 86 people.
Right.
And a staff of 30. Mm-hmm. And the responsibility of over here is to bring it back over here 365 days later.
I like that visual. That helps. That really does help.
We can't go. We got
to scoop it back.
You got to keep it together. Yeah. And so we hold it in trust.
Okay.
To do and accomplish, the Great Commission and fulfill the Great Commandment.
Right.
And that's what we're doing. Our responsibility was to hold it over here and bring it back. And so it's, we can't, there are things that happen during the course of the year that we have to do our very best to answer. But the best answer I think we can give, if we're not sure, is to make sure we bring it back to the messengers to decide. Because that's our polity. That's who we say we are.
And, in the last couple of weeks, I guess 3 weeks, lots of Southern Baptist groups, entities, organizations, all are, I think, encouraged to be looking at and reviewing all of their internal structures and policies and all of those kind of things. So this has been a good reminder for everybody to just review and to look and check ourselves. What's some advice you would give the incoming set of officers and the new trustees coming on board as far as as you're wrapping up, what's some advice you would give them to be prepared, better prepared maybe than what maybe some of the officers in the past or even members in the past going in?
Get to know each other.
Yeah.
Because relationships are critical.
Right. Okay.
And when I say get to know each other, and I'm glad that now, we've set a new precedent in that, there's an orientation for new trustees that where they come together, they spend time in Nashville, they eat together, they have lunch, dinner, and they learn about what it is their responsibilities are. And kind of, I don't want to say they're forced, but, it's kind of, they're asked, don't sit with, if you're coming in from California and you've got another trustee coming in from California or one coming in from Arizona that you might know, don't sit with that one. Sit with the trustee coming in from West Virginia that you don't know or something like that. So you get to know each other. It's kind of, to me, it's like, this is the class. So my class is the class from 2014. We're graduating. Right. We graduate today. We've done our thing. So we're moving on. And there's an opportunity for this next group to get to know each other. I mean, I think about the friends I have made. Yeah. And I'm thankful for that, because I'm thankful for the friends that I've made through these years, through these 8 years. Men and women who I got a chance, God's given me the chance to meet them on this side of heaven. We're going to spend eternity together, but on this side, I got a chance to meet them. Like my buddy, Tom Tucker, who served with me. We served as officers together. He serves as vice chair for a year. Stacy Bramlett, we served as officers together. Stephen Swafford and was one. Just even going back to Mike Rout was the first chairman that I worked under. When I came on in 2014, he was the chair of the EC. So I had Mike Rout, Stephen Rummage, Mike Stone, and I learned something from each one of those men as they led. Wow. So it's kind of humbling for me, because now that this is done and people have said you've really led as a statesman. I got to watch 3 guys do the job. Wow. Yeah. And you got to take notes, whether you write it down or you get that mental picture that in the face of chaos or conflict, somebody's got to stay calm. Someone has to be not so much the voice of reason, but allow the Lord just to be present. And so you don't have to jump in and react to everything. Take your time. This is because whose work is this? This is His work. It's not our work. It's God's work. And what I've really come to know, especially in this last year, is that you got to put an emphasis on prayer. And so I would tell the new EC members, pray together. One of the things that we were able to do before our last meeting in February, we were able to go and just do a prayer retreat. Right. I remember. Yeah. No EC business, no agenda, our Bibles, and let's pray together.
What was that like? Powerful.
Wow. We came back, the small group of us that went, and no guilt to anyone who didn't go. Right. If they weren't able to come, we understand. That wasn't what it was about. It was about come. In fact, I was asked while we were there, well, Rolland, what's the magic number? Oh, wow. And I said, well, the magic number was 2. Wow. Where 2 or more are gathered together. I'm in the midst. That's all. So if it meant 2 of us went to Oklahoma, that was going to be sufficient for me. Wow. Because initially, I was thinking, well, is it 30% of the executive committee, current members of the executive? But no, Lord, your word tells me what the standard is. So I'm going to take you at your word. I'm going to offer it, and I'm going to ask him to come. Now, the only thing that we didn't do that was reported was, I did ask everyone to not tweet out and not to share what we were doing. Right. Because I felt that we needed to just make it private, quiet. And we didn't take anyone's cell phones. So it was reported we took their cell phones. We didn't take anybody's cell phones.
I did see that. I wondered if that
No,
was.
we didn't take it. But the funny thing about it is, we were at Falls Creek in Davis, Oklahoma, so there wasn't any cell service. So it was no big deal.
So you knew you didn't need to, right? That's great. That's great. Well, did everybody abide and not tweet? And
They didn't tweet, didn't share out. But we got to know each other, and we got to really, we got an opportunity. Claude King came, and Claude King was our facilitator.
That's right. Wow.
So, other than Henry Blackaby, you get Claude King. Well, wow.
Yeah.
Really led into the presence of the Lord,
Wow.
and Claude is a humble man,
Right.
and he shared his heart. And when I had asked him would he come do that, it was a career thing for him.
Mm-hmm.
He said he'd been praying for that opportunity, and we. Wow. Together, we tried to force it, do we need this and we need that? And, then finally both of us just settled into, we're going to let God handle this, and it'll be who it's going to be here. Mm-hmm. And then when we came back, we made a decision there. It was asked of me, and I made the decision there that when we came to our February meeting, we're going to start with prayer.
And you did, I remember.
So we had 2 hours of prayer. People were like, changing the schedule. Yep.
We don't
do
that.
Yep.
That's
because
funny.
we need to be in the right position spiritually to do the business that God had for us to do. Mm. And, and if you notice, I'm sure there's been people who have commented that our February meeting had a different tone.
It did. I was in both, and it did. Yeah.
From September to February was, September, October, the fall, the whole fall process to February, because there were things that were, that happened in the fall that once we submitted, once we submitted ourselves to the Lord, and the Holy Spirit revealed to us those things that we had either said or done that were not glorifying to Him, and we got an opportunity to clean that up within ourselves, and then to move forward. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, even for all of our entity boards, I don't know all of the entity board members or trustees through this experience as well. Mm-hmm. One of the things I've learned, it's better to get to know someone when you're not in a crisis.
Good point.
So, we need to be intentional. I mean, the entity leaders have the Great Commission Council where they all get together during the meetings with, February, September, or here, they get together. I think that there ought to be, and I don't want to call it Great Commission Council, 2.0, but there ought to be a time when the chairs of the entities, when we get to know each other.
Oh, that's a good idea. Yeah.
Because one of the things that's happened for me is I got to know David Prince, who was the chair of the ERLC.
Okay.
I got to know Philip Levant, the chair of Southwestern. Okay. And then, they got to know me, and we got to just talk as brothers in the Lord, as we were, all three of us at times, leading an entity that was going through something and going through a challenge. And so how can I support, I learned to support David and to pray for David and his family, and to pray for Philip and his family. And they learned to pray for me and what I needed. And then when I got in that feeling like, oh, I'm really stressed, I now have two brothers I can call and say, hey, how did you get through this moment?
Good point.
And again, the comfort that we've been given that comfort so that we can comfort someone else. So it's a way for us to learn that. And, when I came in December, I flew out to Nashville and got a chance to see, and this was really kind of different for me. The ERLC staff and the executive committee staff had a Christmas chapel service together.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
It's kind of, and I'm kind of like going, well, y'all in the same building all the time, right? So don't you, and it's kind of like, well, is this So this is the only time we scheduled to come together. They have their chapel, we have our chapel kind of thing. No, now we're coming together. And then we sat there, all of us together and worshiped and thought of the season that we're in. At that time, we're in that Christmas season. And it's like, okay. But it wasn't, it was brothers and sisters, it was the couple of the EC staff members were providing the music. The ERLC had brought in the speaker. And Walter Strickland did a great job as the speaker. So that, if we're family, we're part of this greater enterprise that is the Southern Baptist Convention, and we need to, tear down the walls and the silos and come together.
Division has been a topic this week as well. Just in a final few moments, how would you suggest we tear down those silos and come together, even on the broader sense? In the broader sense, well, I think we need to remember that we are created in the image of God. And as I said, relationships matter. Right. That's one of the things that I've really learned. And so if I'm having a conflict with somebody, I need to look at them and say, I need to see the image of God in you. So if I don't see it, it's my eyes. I've got to learn to filter that, to really look for that. And to see the imago Dei in everyone that God has put in my place or in my life that day. And so I think we need to understand if we're gonna be brothers and sisters in the Lord as we say we are, then we need to be able to sit down and reason together. And get, again, I think the relationships, and that's the thing that I'm going to miss about the executive committee is the relationships that I've built in the 8 years of traveling back and forth to Nashville. I mean, I have a relationship with the shuttle company that picks me up. I mean, Ray Moore is the driver, and he's the owner of that company. That's fantastic.
And he's my brother in the Lord, and so I get a chance. To text him from San Diego, not when I'm just going to Nashville, but when when the Holy Spirit brings Ray to my mind, Ray and his family, he's got a wife and children, he comes to my mind, I can send him a text message, hey brother, I'm praying for you. And it's not about, I'm praying for you, I will be in Nashville on...
Right, use it as the intro.
No. I'm praying for you. And, he can respond back. So.
Oh, that's so great. That's so great. Well, I'll tell you what, I will not let you feel left out. I'll just keep asking questions. How about that?
Absolutely. You've got my contact information. I'm not planning to change my numbers or anything like that.
All right. So, all right. Yeah. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. We just appreciate just the 2 years you had.
Thank you.